Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending from whichever part of the world you are tuning in from. And in fact, I am grateful, thankful, and ready to prepare us for another promising session on the Forex Morning Mastery with Sheriff Daramola. Well, as usual, we are going to be delving deep into an insightful analysis of the financial instrument on our watch list for the week. And for this week so far, we have been deliberating on the USDJPY, GBPUSD, the USOIL SPOT, and of course the XAUUSD. And we have been doing pretty fair in the last 24 hours, actually, though we had some couple of losses. I think we had one on the GBPUSD. And we also had one, I'm not sure, but we are going to be going into that in a couple of moment. So in the next 30-40 minutes, we are going to be exploring the current market structure using simple but powerful setups to uncover ideas that can potentially shape our trading decisions ahead of both the London and the New York session. Well, you all know how we do it. We rely basically on the power of trend lines, key level, and of course chart patterns to give us a valuable insight into the historical price movement of all of the instruments on our watch list. And for those who are joining us for the first time, you're highly welcome on board. And what we simply do here is to come together as a community in anticipation of both the London and the New York session. So during this time, we always review and manage our current and existing positions, while we also aim to position ourselves strategically ahead of today's trading session. Well, what we simply do here is to work on the 1 hour time frame. So we simply work on the 1 hour time frame, since this is going to be our execution time frame. So if you do want to have a background knowledge of how we got to this point and how we determine or identify these key structures, then I would advise that you watch my videos that I shared during the course of the weekend, as I did a top-down analysis on all of these instruments. So what we're simply doing here is more of a follow-up detail to this video. I have the links to these videos right in the description box of this current video, so you might want to check them out if you haven't after the end of the session, so that you can have a background knowledge of what we are talking about here. And these videos are duly time-stamped, so you can easily navigate to whichever aspect of the video is of your interest. So once again, you are welcome on board. Now, before we delve into the nitty-gritties of today's business, feel free to let me know how the audio and visual is doing in the comment section, as this will help me keep tabs with the latest development as regards to the technicality of the session. So if everything is fine, please let me know, and if it isn't, please let me know too, as well, as this will prompt me to be able to do the necessary adjustments so that we can have a better experience out here, and your feedbacks will really be appreciated. Thank you very much, as I look forward to your feedbacks. I can see a couple of comments in the chat box. Mansuru, good morning, Mansuru. Glad to have you around and trust you had a wonderful 24 hours in the market. Jonah Aruna, good morning to you. Thank you very much. Okay, Mansuru, thank you for that feedback. I really do appreciate that. So I think on that note, we shall take this as a positive feedback that we are good to go this morning. So on that note, we shall be starting the day as usual, checking on the economic calendar, as we all know how important this checking on the economic calendar is. These fundamental factors often manifest on the charts, in technical patterns, and of course price movements. And by monitoring the economic calendar, we can easily identify potential correlations between key economic releases and specific technical patterns. And with a better understanding of what majority of the market is looking forward to, it will help us to better time ourselves in such a way that we can catch potential trading opportunities ahead, during, or even after this event. So with that being said here, let's dive right into the economic calendar. And in fact, I was able to spool out a couple of high impact events coming in from the US economic docket. So for today, Tuesday, July 18th, we have the retail sales for month on month for the month of June. And the retail sales is the measures the total receipts of retail stores, and monthly percentage changes reflect the rate of change in such sales. So this is an indicator of consumer spending, which of course is another high impact event that majority in the market will definitely want to be looking forward to. And generally speaking, a high reading is always seen as a positive tone for the US dollar, while a low reading is seen as negative. And from the previous data we had here for the month of May, it came in at 0.3%, and we have a general consensus projecting 0.5% for this month, for last month. So we are going to be looking forward to what the actual data is going to be like. Will it be just as expected, below expectation, or even beyond expectation? So this data here is coming in about 3 hours from now. So we are also going to be anticipating this by trying to see how the market will be anticipating it. Of course, we shall be seeing this anticipation reflect on the chart as price action, which of course will help us to be able to position ourselves in such a way that we can catch the volatility that might come in during or around this event. So with that being said here, and with the information we have gathered here, let's dive right into the business for today. And as usual, the first instrument we are going to be taking on, okay, I can see a comment. Richard Blackett says that the sound quality is scratchy, I guess. Okay, thank you very much for that feedback. So I will just have to. All right, so I think things will be fine now. So let me know in the comment section if it's okay. Thank you for that feedback, Richard Blackett. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's dive right into the business for today. So as usual, the first instrument we are going to be taking on is of course the USOIL SPOT. And in fact, since the beginning of this week, we have been selling the USOIL SPOT since the beginning of the week, and during the course of yesterday's trading session, we also noticed a volatile move in price action, bringing price action to the upside. Now let's look at this whole structure closely, how the week started for us here, how the USOIL SPOT. So I would like to zoom it out a little bit so that we can have an holistic perspective into what is really going on in this market. Now, looking at what has been going on here since the beginning of this month, it is quite obvious that price action has been bullish. And in fact, to emphasize the strength of the buyers in this particular market, we had a couple of trend lines which gave us something that looks more like an ascending channel. And when we connected the series of higher lows and of course the higher highs, we had something like this. Now, our center of focus for the week was around this area after we tried to decipher and understand what really went on in this market throughout the course of last week. And one key element to this current market structure is that demand zone situated between the $75.25 level and of course the $74.50 area to give us a platform that we could be looking out for buying opportunity. So this was our expectations at the beginning of the week, looking out for buying opportunities above that area, maybe double bottom structures, reversal patterns, or market structures that would support a trend continuation. But instead, what happened this week was quite interesting, as we saw the week started with a bearish gap, and then price action fell into a range just right around that demand zone, and we had a couple of times price break down the support line of that range. Remember, we had a sell here, had the breakdown retest of the structure, and you know how we do it in this community. As soon as price action breakdown moves in our favor, we move our stop loss to secure the position. And if you had done that appropriately, you must have been taken out of that position at a worst case scenario break even. Then we saw the same thing happen here. Price action came back again to retest the structure that was broken with another bearish engulfing candle, bringing in price into the sell stop order here to push price again to the downside. Now at this point in time, if you're still in a sell position, you will currently be running with about 37 pips in profit at this point in time. And in fact, I will be advising you at this juncture to move all stop losses to the entry point. And we are going to be talking about why that is in a moment. But before I go into the details of what we are going to be looking at today, let's run through my commentary on the USOIL SPOT. And for those who are with me on the TradingView and Telegram platform, you will definitely have gotten this update. But for the sake of clarity, so that we can all be on the same page, we shall be running through our commentary once again. So this morning, I shared this like an hour ago, a very short one here. So I said we should secure all sell position as we look out for more trading opportunities. Now, if we go back into the live chart here, there's something interesting about the structure that we need to take into consideration while we try to decipher what our next line of action will be. Now, one of the patterns here is the situation around that 74, between the $74 area and the $73.75 area. One thing you will notice here is how sellers have struggled as soon as price action gets into this zone. And this is a clear sign that we might likely be seeing a bullish momentum anytime soon, as we can see here during the London session yesterday. We saw sharp rejection by the buyers, giving us a very strong volatile move to the upside. Then during the later part of the New York session, we saw another rejection of that area by buyers. As you can see, sellers has been finding it very, very difficult to break through that structure. And in the last couple of hours again, you will see how sellers again has found it difficult to break through that level. So for me at this particular point in time, if I want to consider selling or adding more sell position to my existing trade, I would rather want to see price action slice through that demand zone to give me the confidence to join this bearish move. But at this juncture in time, as long as price action remains above the $73.75 level, it doesn't make a lot of sense to sell at this point. So what I will be advising us to do right now is to secure this current sell position, as there is a high chance that a bullish momentum could come in, since sellers have been finding it difficult to find new lows after testing the new support at the $73.75 level. Now, for us to buy the USOIL SPOT for today, I will be looking at the breakout of the $74.45 level for an opportunity to buy. Now, I want us to take note of this situation here. Now, for us to buy at this point, we will need a confirmation to happen. And once we sight a breakout of the $74.45 level, we scale down into our lower time frame. It could be the 5 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes time frame, to look out for confirmations that buyers are gaining momentum and that sellers are finding it difficult to drop back below the $74.45 level. And this of course will reflect on the chart as continued buy pressure around this area, where we start seeing something like higher lows and inability of sellers to break through that structure, after which we want to be joining a bullish move. And in fact, if we do join a bullish move and price action continues to climb to the upside, we will see here that price will be back into the buyer's territory, which has been peculiar for buying pressure since last week's trading session. So if price comes within this area, continued buy pressure around that area will further confirm that we are good to add more position to our existing trade. And in fact, we have important levels like the $75 level. If price action breaks out of that structure and retest it, we also have the $75.25 level, which happens to be our key level for this week. So a breakout of this level will definitely give us the privilege to maximize the potential of this bullish move. So that is how I'm going to be buying the USOIL spot today. So we just need to be very, very patient at this juncture on the market. Let's see if the $73.75 level will continue to reject sellers' attempt in this market. So remember, we said here that for those who still have a sell position in the market, we want to move all stop losses, secure the position as we wait out and see if this $73.75 level will be broken to the downside or not. So these are my views here on the USOIL spot for today. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions, and you can as well use that time to mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as reference points to guide your trading activities for today. So let's see if we have any questions whatsoever before we move on to the next instrument. All right, I see your comment, Richard Blacker. Thank you very much. Mansur, James Okori. Good morning, James. Thank you very much for that feedback. I really do appreciate that. So, in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we're on the same page here. So, I hope you've marked out these levels and getting ready for the London and New York session today. So that is that on the USOIL spot. So we shall be moving on to the next instrument on our watch list. All right, so the next instrument on our watch list is the GBPUSD. Now, on the GBPUSD, it's in fact a very indecisive market, as participants are still not sure of where price action is likely going to be going. And if you remember, at the beginning of the week, we initially identified a range where price action was caught within, and that is between our key level for the week, which of course is at the 1.3100 level. For those who have not watched my video on the GBPUSD, please try and watch it so that you can understand the idea behind having our key level at the 1.3100 area. The links are right in the description box of this current video, so you can check them out, and they are duly timestamped so you can easily navigate to whichever aspect of the video is of your interest. So right there, let's go back into the chart right now. So what I was saying here is, at the beginning of the week, we confirmed that we had a range which further emphasized the level of indecision in this particular market. And you know how we do it. Whenever we have this kind of flat channel, we of course want to remain patient, waiting for signals in the form of either a breakout of the resistance line to give us a buy opportunity, or the breakdown of the support line to give us an opportunity to sell. And one interesting thing that we saw here yesterday was this sharp rejection of that support line here, giving us an hammer candle to work with, and also giving us a sign that we might likely be seeing a bullish momentum. So as at yesterday's trading session, we were of the idea that a buy momentum still is very, very possible at this point in time. Now, coupled with the descending trend line we identified earlier, remember, if you were with us during our live session yesterday, you'll recall that we had a descending trend line after connecting the series of lower highs. And one interesting thing about that descending trend line at that point was the fact that it shared a confluence with that resistance level at the 1.31, which of course was serving as our key level for the week. And what we agreed here yesterday is that we are going to be having a buy stop order above that structure and below this level to capitalize on where price action will be going. So we had our buy stop order triggered yesterday on the GBPUSD, but unfortunately for us, price action took us out at a loss on that move as we saw price action drop to the downside. So it was an unfortunate start for us this week, but it's okay. The week is still very, very early, so we can jump into conclusion at this point in time. And we still have like 3-4 days for us to recoup and recover from the loss we incurred. And we saw what happened here immediately after price dropped to the downside. We also had our sell stop order triggered as soon as price broke down the structure. It didn't last long as we saw price moved about 30 pips thereabout, and if you had moved your stop loss accordingly, you must have been taken out with a modest size of profit or at a worst case scenario break even. So with the situation we have right now, price action is back into that range, and this tells us a lot of things about this current market structure. That is, the market is still very, very uncertain at this point in time, and there is a tendency that majority in the market are looking forward to a catalyst that will be an indicator to drive price movement. And of course, we talked about this earlier, that we are expecting the retail sales data coming in from the US dockets today, and of course this is a very high impact event that majority in the market will be anticipating, and the anticipation of this event of course would reflect on the chart, and we are already seeing the reflection of the anticipation go on the current market structure as participants are still not sure. Major key players are out of the market, giving us a low liquidity market, and as a result of this, price is within a range. Now, going into the New York and London session today, what is going to be our plans? How do we intend to position ourselves for trading activities today? So before we go into what to expect here, let's run through my commentary this morning on the GBPUSD on how we are going to be managing our position for today. So right here on the GBPUSD, I shared a commentary about an hour ago. So if you are my TradingView platform and Telegram platform, you will definitely have gotten an update. So this is where our stop loss was hit on the buy position. Yesterday, we saw some selling position, of course. We moved our stop losses accordingly. We were taken out of that position, and right now price is back into that range. So this is my commentary this morning. I said here that the sell position reached a break-even point, highlighting the prevailing indecisiveness in the market. Price action has retraced back to the range where it began the week, underscoring the uncertainty among market participants who eagerly await the release of retail sales data later today. In this environment, it is crucial to exercise patience and wait for a definitive breakout or breakdown of this range. It is important to note that any potential position will require confirmations before entry. Additionally, the newly identified ascending trend line, which is the blue one on your screen, will serve as a crucial reference point to guide trading activities throughout today. So now let's run through what I'm trying to explain here on the live chat. So like I said here this morning, I said the market is consolidating within a range, and you know how we do it in this community. As soon as price falls within a range like this, we want to remain patient, waiting for either a breakout of the resistance line to give us an opportunity to buy, or the breakdown of the support line to give us an opportunity to sell. But now in this peculiar situation we are finding ourselves, like I said in my commentary this morning, we will need confirmations before we join heavy position here. So even though we have a breakout or breakdown of the range, we would wait for a confirmation to happen before we join, as we really need to see that price action is really going in that direction. And so what do I mean by that? So in this case scenario where we already have a breakdown of this support line, we are not having a sell stop order, we're not having a buy stop order in the structure. We're just going to scale down into a lower time frame to look out for signs that sellers are gradually gaining momentum and that buyers are losing the steam, and this would reflect on the chart as price coming back to retest the structure. Continued selling pressure around this area will now give us that opportunity to look out to sell the GBPUSD. So at this point in time, we need to be very, very careful, as a breakdown or breakout could still turn out to be a false one at this point. So likewise, the same thing with the breakout of the resistance line too as well. If we do have a breakout of that structure, we scale down into our lower time frame to look out for confirmations like a retest, continued by pressure around this area before we start considering buying the GBPUSD. So you can see how patient we need to be able to capture any potential move on this current market structure. We're still not profitable on the GBPUSD, so we can't afford to have sell-stop order. There's no profit to leverage on yet on this one. So let's remain patient and wait for the structures to mature. Then in addition to this range we have here is the ascending trend line I was able to spot here this morning after noticing the sharp rejection of that 1.30600 level, as you can see here, and we saw how price action had continued to find higher lows in this market. We saw what happened here a couple of hours ago too as well. So this is a clear sign that we might likely be seeing a breakout of the resistance line. So we are not sure yet. So this trend line here is going to be serving as a yardstick to guide our trading activity today. So what this simply means is that as long as price remains above this trend line, we shall look out for structures and patterns that will support the idea of buying the GBPUSD. But if this trend line is breached to the downside, then at that point we will start considering selling. So we want to be marking all these levels out on our chart, and on the GBPUSD, a whole lot of patience is required in this particular market. But trust me, I will be with you in the comment section as always on both my TradingView and Telegram platforms to give you updates as at when due. So these are my views here on the GBPUSD. If you do have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop them in the comment box and I will be checking them in a moment. And I will of course take the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions, and you can as well use that time to mark out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them to guide your trading activities for today. Hello, good morning, Babalola. How are you doing today? Trust you are doing very well, and thanks for the compliment. All right, we'll soon be starting the XAUUSD very soon, okay? And glad to see you around. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we're on the same page, so we shall be moving into the next instrument on our watch list. So the next instrument on our watch list is the XAUUSD. This is my favorite instrument, which I love trading, and in fact it's quite a little bit easy to understand the psychology of this market based on the volume and participants in this particular market. Now, in the last 24 hours, it has been an interesting situation, though we had situations where price action was indecisive at some points in time. And in fact, during our XAUUSD live session yesterday, we actually anticipated a sell position and of course a buy position. We are going to be looking into that in a moment. So right here on the XAUUSD, the first thing we observed on the 1 hour time frame yesterday was the fact that price action was a little bit bearish since Thursday, and in fact we saw lower highs in this particular market. And when we connected the series of lower highs, we had this interesting descending trend lines we said we were going to be using to guide our trading activities for this week. And one of the things we of course look out for when we have descending trend line is that we want price action to remain below the descending trend line, to continue to look out for chart patterns and structures that will support the idea of selling. And not only if we have a breakout of the descending trend line that we will start considering buying that asset. Now, in addition to the descending trend line we identified here yesterday, we also had the flat channel figured out, as we saw price action fell into a consolidation phase, during the first 12 hours of yesterday's trading session, as we saw a juxtaposing between the 1,956 and the 1,956 and the 1,951. And you know how we do it in this community. Whenever we have this kind of situations, we want to wait for a breakout or breakdown of that range to give us an opportunity to either buy or sell. And one of the things we saw here yesterday, I told us all that we are going to be having a breakout of this trend line to buy, and of course the breakout of this resistant line here to buy to as well. So with our buy stop orders placed at both ends, we had two positions running, and that move did not last long. As you saw, the first position here ran with about 45 pips, and the second position here ran with about 33 pips before we were taken out of that position at worst case scenario break, even if you had moved your stop loss to your entry point. And we saw the bearish impulsive move striking all the way to the downside, triggering our sell stop order right at the 1,951. That one too did not last long, as we saw price move about 40-50 pips move before we were taken out of that position again. And since then, price action has gradually found higher lows in this market, giving us a clear sign that buyers are gradually gaining momentum. And towards the end of the New York session yesterday, I think around 3 or 4 hours into the New York session, I shared an update on the 15 minutes time frame where I was looking out for selling opportunities if price action break down the structure. Let me show you that in my commentary. I shared this right here. So I shared it right here yesterday. So okay, this is it right here on the 15 minutes time frame where I said I want to see a breakdown retest of the $1,951.85 level to join a bearish move, and a breakout of the 1,955 to join a bullish move. Though we didn't see the breakdown retest of the 1,951, but we saw the breakout of the 1,955 to trigger. We saw the breakout, we saw the retest of structure, sharing a beautiful confluence with that descending trend line. And in fact, a breakout of the descending trend line is a sign that the trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to negate that bullish attempt. So we saw the situation move, and price action went to continue to climb and find higher highs. And remember that we had key levels at the 1,956, the 1,960, and of course the 1,963 to maximize the potential of this bullish move. And since yesterday, we have about 3 positions running in profit at this point in time. And for those who had capitalized on this move, well done to you guys for being on standby to catch this move. The first position is running with about 70 pips, second position running with about 51 pips, and the third position here running with about 18 to 19 pips in profit, while the fourth position is currently running in a loss of about 18 pips. So at this point in time, we are very profitable on the XAUUSD so far this week, and you know how we do it. The next thing we want to be doing right now is to move all stop losses to secure the current buy position. And the area I'm of the opinion that we secure the current buy position is around below the 1,960. Of course, we do want to give room for price action to breach. So I will be suggesting anywhere below the 1,960 and the 1,957 could be a very, very appropriate area to move all stop losses to. And like I said, we really do want to give room for price action to breathe. Now, with the situation we have right now with the well secured positions, what is our plans for today? How do we intend to capitalize on a potential trend continuation or probably a reversal pattern if the selling pressure around the 1,963-ish continue to persist going into today's trading session? Now remember, since last week we have seen how that zone has been a very strong selling niche, and in fact we would indeed need a significant breakout retest of this zone to confirm that buyers will probably be dictating the pace for the second half of the week. But before we go into that detail, we want to acknowledge that since the beginning of this week, price action has been bullish since we saw the test of the lowest point here. Since then, price action has been finding higher lows. Now, to do this, we want to connect the series of higher lows here, as we shall be needing it to guide our trading activities for today. Now, there's one way we can do this because of the pivot lows here are not uniform, and so we want to look for the uniform one. So we connect this one instead and consider this one to be a false breakdown of that trend line. And when we bring back our candle chart, we can adjust the trend line to suit the current market structure. So look at what we have here. So I will just extend this one down a little bit so that it can capture most of the pivot lows we have here. So we shall consider this one to be a false breakdown, which we saw how price immediately climbed back above the trend line, and since then it has been respecting that trend line. So for today, we have an ascending trend line that we shall be using to guide our trading activity for today. So what this simply means is that as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in our buy positions while we also look out for more opportunities to buy. And in fact, this ascending trend line will also help us to be able to place our stop loss at an appropriate area so that we can give room for price action to breathe. Now, going into the London and New York session today, there is a tendency that price could do some retracement. As you can see in the last couple of hours now, we have been noticing some selling pressure. Let me zoom this in a little bit so that we can see. So we have been noticing some selling pressure around the 1,963 zone, and there is a chance that price could take us out of all our buy positions at the moment, which could be in the form of a retracement back into the ascending trend line, which of course shares a confluence with that $1,956.75 level, which happens to be our initial resistance line for the week. And you know how we do it from a technical standpoint. When price action breaks out of a key structure, we expect it to come back and retest it to incite a trend continuation to the upside. And with a beautiful confluence with our ascending trend line there, we shall see how price action will react to that level to determine what our next line of action will be. So if price action drops into the $1,956.75 level and we begin to see buy pressure around this area, it will come in the form of a double bottom structure, head and shoulder pattern, or any reversal pattern you can think of. Then we will be getting ready to join a bullish trend continuation to the upside. However, if price action drops and continues to slide to the downside, breaching that ascending trend line, then at that point we will start considering selling. And remember, we are not going to be getting too excited at that point, as we would need a confirmation before joining any position around this area. And this would reflect on the chart as a retest of structure. So we are looking at for retest of the structure, continued selling pressure right on our lower time frame to be part of a trend continuation to the downside. So this is the only way I will start considering selling the GBPUSD at this point. So let's mark these levels out on our chart. The ascending trend line, very, very important, as we shall be using it as a major factor in guiding our trading activities for today. Now, if price action does not drop to the downside and instead continues to find higher highs, then at this point we want to be having another buy stop order above this area for those who are profitable on this one. But if you are not, and this is your first position you are going to be taking on the XAUUSD for today, I will suggest that you wait for a breakout of structure to happen first of all, then scale down into the lower time frame like the 5, 10 or 15 minutes time frame to look out for confirmations that buyers is likely going to be dictating the pace. And this would reflect on the chart as a retest of structure, continued buy pressure, after which we can join an uptrend continuation. So that is how we are going to be managing our trades for today. So let's ensure that all buy positions are well secured at this point, and let's see how price action will play out going forward from this current structure. So if you have any questions whatsoever as regards to my explanations thus far, feel free to let me know in the comment section, or you need me to make clarification to whatever area on this market structure, let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions, and you can as well use that time to mark out these levels on your chart as we continue to monitor price action. All right, so I hope my 10-15 seconds is already up. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section, and trust me, I am here and willing to be of help. So I do hope you've marked out these levels on your chart. Very, very important, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide our trading activities for today. So in the absence of no questions, let's move on to the last instrument for today. So the last instrument on our watch list for today is of course the USDJPY. And on the USDJPY too, we're still struggling to make an headway here in this market. Remember, we identified a reversal pattern on the 1 hour time frame prior to the beginning of the week, but it appears that price action is not going to follow through with that reversal pattern, as you can see. Though yesterday we thought it's going to happen, as we saw the breakout of that neckline for the first time in about 4 to 5 days, but as you can see, sellers broke through, came back into the below the level, and continued to push price to the downside. So it has been quite a very interesting tussle between the buyers and sellers so far this week. Now let's run through how the week started for us. Remember, we had something like an head and shoulder pattern, which was of course a technical reversal pattern we were holding on to guide our trading activities for yesterday's trading session. And in fact, we were looking forward to the breakout of that neckline to incite the idea of buying the USDJPY. Though we saw an attempt here yesterday, we saw price broke out of that resistance line to give us an opportunity to buy, but that move did not last long, as you will see here that price action moved about 50 pips, and if you had moved your stop loss accordingly, like just the way we do in this community, as soon as price action moves significantly well in our favor, we of course want to move our stop losses to secure the position you would have been taken out with a modest size of profit, or at a worst case scenario, break even. Now we saw price continue to climb and drop to the downside, and I told us all that we had a support line here at the 138.375, which was also broken for the second time this week to trigger another sell stop order this morning. So let me share with you what my update was this morning as regards to the USDJPY and how we intended to manage our existing trade for today. I see your comment, Chatcon. Chatcon is asking that yesterday you mentioned USDJPY is still bullish. Is it still true for today? Well, this is what we are trying to decipher here this morning. So we are still trying to go through the market structure to understand the psychology behind the price movement using simple setups like trend lines and chart patterns to identify what our next line of action will be. So we are going to be getting into that in a moment, so stay tuned in. So right now, I shared this commentary. Okay, yesterday we had a range. Remember, I told us all here that if a breakout happens, we have a buy stop order above that area. But if price action breaks below the 138.375, that we are going to be waiting for a confirmation to happen before we join a bearish move to the downside. Remember, so this is what we had yesterday. Price moved up 50 pips, moved our stop loss, taking out at a modest size of profit. And this morning here, I shared that after closing the buy position at break even, a new sell position was triggered below the 138.375, had the breakdown retest of that level. As we move forward, our trading activities today will be guided by the descending trend line, which has become a crucial reference point. Now let's go back into the live chart to deliberate on this. Now if you look at the 1 hour time frame, now since price action broke out of that proposed neckline we identified at the 138.00 level, which never lasted long, we can see that since yesterday price action had continued to find lower lows and lower highs. And when you start seeing lower highs in the market, it's a clear sign that sellers are gradually gaining momentum. And whenever we identify this kind of structure, the next thing we want to be doing is to connect the series of lower highs to have a trend line to use to guide our trading activity. And that was what I did here this morning. So after bringing out my line chart, I saw the lower highs here, connected the series of lower highs, and now we have a beautiful descending trend line, which shall be the basis upon which we shall be trading today. Now, you know, when we see descending trend lines like this, of course, we want to see price action remain below the descending trend line to feel comfortable in a sell position, and of course, look out for more opportunities to sell. Now, with the situation we have right now, price action still remains below the descending trend line, and of course, still remains below the support line we identified at the beginning of the week. And for this fact, we shall remain bearish in this market unless the trend line is breached to the upside. We could still have a situation where price could retrace back into the trend line, and a continued selling pressure around that trend line will still give us that confidence that selling momentum will still come in. And then for those who missed out on the sell position, could take advantage of a sell move if price action comes back to retest that descending trend line. And we could have further sell stop order below the 138.00 area to maximize the potential of this bearish move to the downside. So this is how we are going to be selling the USDJPY for today. Now, you know how we do it in this community. In as much as we're looking out for selling opportunities, we cannot ignore the potentials buyers have in this particular market. And if we are going to be getting ready to buy from this current structure, what do we want to see on this chart that will make us change our bias from bearish to bullish? Now look at this structure very closely and look at how the market has been reacting to the structure since the beginning of the week. The first thing you would observe here is that we initially had a resistance line around the 138.800, remember, which served as our key level 2. And then the lowest point where price action has been for this week is around that psychological level at the 138.00 level. And for us at this point, this area as a memory for buying power, as we saw what happened here 2 hours into the New York session. Yesterday we saw a sharp rejection of that area by buyers, and in the last couple of hours now, you will see that sellers have been struggling around this area to find new lows in this market. Now, if this buy pressure persists here, the chances that price action will break out of that descending trend line now increases. Now, if this is going to be the scenario, then this whole zone here will now become a platform for a buying niche to incite an uptrend continuation. So now, if we are going to be taking advantage of a bullish move from this current market structure, how would you want to see price action break out of this as descending trend line, which will give me a sign to start getting ready to buy, and immediately we scale down into a lower time frame to look out for confirmations which will reflect on the chart as a retest of the trend line that was broken, or even retest the 138.375. But most importantly, we want to see patterns that will support the idea of buying, and patterns such as double bottom structures, head and shoulder patterns, identify the neckline on the lower time frame, and then we buy the breakout of the neckline. So that is how we are going to be buying the USDJPY today. And if price action goes on to continue to the upside, then a breakout of the 138.850, which we have been anticipating since the beginning of the week, will welcome more opportunities to maximize this move to the upside. So these are my views here on the USDJPY. So you do want to mark out these levels. They are very, very important. The first one here is this descending trend line. Very, very important, as this will be our yardstick to guide trading activities for today. If price remains below the trend line, we feel comfortable in our sell positions, while we also look out for more opportunities to sell. But if price breaks out of this trend line, then at that point we will start getting ready to buy. And of course, I will be with you in the comment section of both my trading view and Telegram platforms to give you update as at when due. Chacton, did I pronounce your name correctly? Chatkan, right? I hope I answered your question. If you still have any questions as regards to this current market setup, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So with that being said here, let's see if there are any questions before we close for today. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions before we draw the curtain for this live session. Just spilled my drink on my table. All right. All right, you're welcome, Chatkan. So I just saw your comments. All right, so I think on this note we have to call it a day here. It has been a wonderful moment with us all today, and I just shared the XAUUSD live monitoring window link in the comment section. So we are going to be going live on monitoring the XAUUSD today, 15 to 30 minutes before the New York session begins. So you want to be clicking on that link and click on the notify me button so that you can get notified whenever we come online. It's on this note I want to call it a day here. It has been a wonderful moment with you guys. And in fact, if you had found this content helpful and useful in making your independent trading decisions for today, I would greatly appreciate that you support this project by giving the video a thumbs up. Your likes are valuable to me, sincerely speaking, and helps the algorithm promote this video to a wider audience of traders who would also find this material useful to them too. Thank you very much in advance as you do so. And if you haven't already, I encourage you to follow me on this channel for more of this content. And by subscribing, you would always get updated with the latest ideas I share, and of course receive notifications whenever I upload new videos and commentaries. So I wish you best of luck today, and hoping to see you right in the comment section on both my trading view and Telegram platform, and of course during the XAUUSD live monitoring window, which will be coming up much more later in the day. Do have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye bye.